We're combining all the best old school wisdom with all the top new school methods to bring you the optimal way to coach and play the great game of baseball. This is the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass with Coach Bo.
Welcome 80-20 coaches. Welcome to our weekly get-together here at the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. Now, I was thinking about this the other day. Some of you might be wondering why I call it a masterclass when it's clearly, and I'm very upfront, this is for youth coaches. This is designed to serve what I think is a very underserved community, and that is youth coaches. Why do I call it the masterclass? Well, because I want youth coaches. I believe youth coaches can master the craft of being excellent coaches, of being great coaches. Now, you could even say, can you ever master anything? Maybe not, but it's probably safe to say that we are all striving to master the art of coaching, to be the best coaches we can be. And I firmly believe if you follow along with this podcast week in and week out, you will be on the way to coaching success. That's where I'm coming from with the masterclass name. And I do believe that this masterclass, this 80-20 baseball podcast, discusses a well-rounded plan, a well-rounded strategy, or should I say well-rounded strategies to optimize our coaching game. And when we think of the word mastery, we probably think of well-rounded, a master of many parts of it, not just a single component of coaching, but a master is somebody who understands from all the various angles. And so that's a little bit behind the name of this podcast. Speaking of podcasts, I did an interview a while back with Rob Tong at the Youth Baseball Edge. I've recommended Rob Tong's podcast before. If you're new to the podcast world or you're new to this podcast and you haven't listened to Rob Tong's podcast, I highly recommend that you go listen to the Youth Baseball Edge by Rob Tong. I really think Rob has a great understanding of how to get great information out of coaches and people that he interviews. And I also think that Rob has a really good understanding of what's best for the game moving forward as coaches. He's thinking ahead, but he's also embracing the traditions that baseball has. And I think he just does an outstanding job of asking questions and diving in and trying to get a good understanding and get the listeners a better understanding of the game of baseball. And he does focus specifically on youth coaches. So I recommend you go listen to Rob Tong's interview. Rob doesn't give me any compensation for this recommendation. I just think Rob does a really good job over there, and specifically for youth coaches. And that's where we're coming from with this podcast, and that's where he's coming from with his podcast. All right, in this episode, I'm going to talk about an MLB record that I was in person to witness and how we as coaches can learn from the event that I witnessed in person a few years back. In part 2, we will briefly discuss an alternative way to look at the 80-20 principle. And in part 3, we are going to discuss something that I believe needs much more clarity in the baseball community, and for that matter in the world, but definitely in the baseball community and specifically the coaching community of baseball. And that is how to optimize the process and results equation. I'm going to share with you what I think is a rather different take on something here. Before we get into part 1, it would be much appreciated if you could support the podcast, support this 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. And this can be done very easily using the link in the show notes, the show summary on your app. You can click on that, and within a couple minutes, you can support the show, keep it moving along. This is episode 70 and well over 2,000 minutes of content, commercial free, 2,400 some odd minutes of, I believe, really good coaching content, strategies, a plan, a blueprint to go out there and be a much better coach. So it would be greatly appreciated if you could support the podcast. And I tried to make that setup as simple and as quick as possible. And thank you for those coaches that are already supporting the podcast. Greatly appreciated. And also, it's great to get all this feedback, emails, sharing the success stories that they're having with this paradigm they're getting from the 80-20 Baseball podcast. They're getting from these weekly shows, these weekly episodes. That fires me up to keep bringing my A game each and every week to provide you a weekly 30-minute episode. All right, now, part 1. So back in 2018, April 2018, my brother-in-law, a couple of his cousins, we went to an Angel game. I lived right around the corner from the Angel game. They were down visiting, and I lived 6 minutes from Angel Stadium. and the Giants were playing the Angels, and my brother-in-law and the cousins, my wife's family, they're big Giants fans, which is interesting because I grew up a Dodgers fan. I'm a baseball fan, so I just want to see great baseball. I want to see great coaching. So at the end of the day, yeah, I'm a Dodger fan. I'm an Angel fan. They're a local team, but at the end of the day, I'm a huge fan of baseball, but nonetheless, they're diehard Giants fans. So we go over to the game, and as we're walking into the game, the batter was Brandon Belt for the Giants. So Brandon Belt, which is a great baseball name, by the way, in more ways than one. Brandon Belt is up to bat, and he's facing the pitcher for the Angels, Jaime Barria is pitching for the Angels, and Brandon Belt's up, and we're making our way to our seat, but we are out in the outfield. It's a beautiful view, a beautiful day. We're just kind of taking it all in. If you've ever been to Angel Stadium, it's really got a cool outfield patio area. You got a great view of the entire ballpark. It's really neat. Now, Angel Stadium does not have a good view of downtown. It does not. It is probably one of the worst located in the major leagues in terms of the surroundings, the scenery around the stadium, or whether it's in the downtown or the view of whatnot. Especially like the Giants Stadium right there on the water. There's downtown, like PNC Park has the picturesque view of downtown. A lot of these stadiums have just beautiful views outside, but Angel Stadium doesn't have a great view outside the stadium. It's in a commercial area. It's very commercialized. Orange County's awesome. It's a beautiful place, but you can't see the beach, and you really can't see the mountains. You couldn't see the mountains anyways with all the smog. So the stadium looking in from the outfield, I always thought was the best view, not necessarily looking out at just billboard signs in the freeway, but looking in, we're watching the game and got a good view of home plate. It's a long ways away, but nonetheless, there's Brandon Belt. He's hitting, and the at-bat just seems to keep going on, and we're just chatting a little bit. We're talking, and the at-bat kept going. The at-bat kept going, and I looked up at Barria's pitch count, and it was like 40. And I'm thinking, well, the math doesn't add up here. Like, the pitch count shouldn't be where it's at with this hitter in the lineup. And so I go, wait a second, this has got to be it. And I think it was pitch 17 at the time. So my brother-in-law, Beto, he really understands baseball. He follows the nuances. He really understands and appreciates the nuances. So I said, hey, I think this is like the 17th pitch of his at-bat. This is pretty impressive. Well, it went 21 pitches, and Brandon Belt finally popped out. I believe he flew out to like the right fielder. It was an uneventful ending, but he had a 21 pitch at-bat. And I looked at my brother-in-law and I said, that's got to be close to the record. I thought there would have been something a little bit on at-bat longer than that. Baseball's been around. How many hundreds of thousands of at-bats have taken place? And I'm thinking, it's got to be if somebody have gone up there and just started poking at the ball and made it to pitch 25. But nonetheless, that was the major league record, 21 pitches in the history of baseball. That was it. And the other day in spring training, Jordan Hicks was pitching against a hitter on the Mets. I can't say his last name. I'm not even going to try. Nonetheless, Jordan Hicks is pitching 22 pitches. It's a 22 pitch at bat. And it made me think, as coaches, if you are teaching your hitters to go up there and battle, and some coaches just say, go up there and battle, or go up there and try to run up the pitcher's pitch count. I don't think that should be the mindset. If that's a result, yeah, you'll take it, because if you drive up the pitch count, you probably, if it's a starting pitcher, especially if it's a good pitcher, you're going to get to probably somebody with lesser quality stuff and a higher chance of scoring runs off of that next pitcher. Now, however, I don't believe overall this is going to produce or help your team produce more runs. Again, everything that we do, and we're going to talk about this, we're going to come back around to this in part 3. Everything that we do as coaches is going to build better human beings, better people, better young people that'll be better adults. And the next thing you're doing is trying to get an offense that produces the most amount of runs it can produce, and a defense and a pitching staff that can reduce or prevent the most amount of runs it can. That's the name of the game. Well, is going up there and in a protective mode and a battle, just foul it off, and content with fouling off pitches a great way or a good mindset to have for a hitter? I don't think so. I think that if it results in a 21 pitch at bat, that's okay. Here's the thing. When I was watching Brandon Belt hit, there was 4 or 5 pitches that he could have driven, but his mindset, and Brandon Belt's a major league hitter, I'm giving him all the respect, but he's up. It doesn't mean he has the best approach. Doesn't mean his approach is perfect. Every major leaguer has a flaw. I don't know if everybody knows that, but they all have flaws, and some of them have multiple flaws. And it wasn't like Barria is a guy that's going to blow it by him. He doesn't throw super hard. He throws below league average. He does have a lot of different pitches, but it was very defensive from the pitch, like say 10 to pitch 21, very defensive. It was almost as if, even if he did put it in play, and the results showed it too, that even if he was going to put it in play, that ball had about a 4% chance of becoming a hit, and at best a single. It was really, very little risk, but almost no reward with that protective swing. Now, we've talked about it at length length on this podcast the 2-strike approach, plan 2, and then plan A. Plan A is less than 2 strikes. Plan 2 is with 2 strikes. You definitely are going to have a little different approach with 2 strikes. I get that. But if your whole approach is centered around, and your mindset that we want our kids to have and our players to have is, hey, just foul it off, I don't think that's a great default mindset. If the pitch is on the fringe of the strike zone, yeah, the hitter is probably going to just try to do what he can with it, and most likely he'll foul it off, or it will be a pitch that he battles and fights off. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but I don't think we should go up there, because here's what happens. When that pitcher in 21 pitches, once it got to 2 strikes, there was probably 15 pitches for Brandon Belt to see with 2 strikes. And I guarantee you, if we went back and looked at the film of that in slow motion, there was a handful of those pitches that were meatballs, or pitches that could have been driven pretty hard and probably hit for doubles, or at least driven, and the defense would have had to make a good play to stop it. But it was very apparent that he was up there just trying to just foul it off. And to me, it's interesting because that's not even a pitcher. That's not a Verlander. That's not a Garrett Cole. That's not a Walker Buehler. That's not a guy, that you're like, well, we really want to get this guy out of the game right away because he's a Cy Young Award winner. I have a lot of respect for Barria. He's a pretty good pitcher overall with the stuff he has. I think he does an excellent job with the stuff he has. He always keeps his team in the game. He never gives up big innings and big run totals, but he's also not a guy that you're like, well, we got to get this guy out of the game or we have no shot. He's going to no hit us. Coaches, don't coach the mindset of just foul it off, because pitchers do not have that good of control for us to do that. They don't have it in the major leagues, and they definitely don't have it in youth baseball or high school or anything in between. They do not have the control, the pinpoint control to have 2 strikes on a hitter and just start dotting the fringes, the edges of the strike zone right where they want. They don't. They make mistakes. And if you're up there, if we're teaching our hitters to be up there ready to protect in defensive mode, well, they're going to miss a lot of opportunities to do some damage on those 2-strike approaches, on those 2-strike pitches, I should say, with that 2-strike approach. If you go look at the World Series and you look at the playoffs and you look at the teams, those are the teams that had the best year last year. The teams that are in the playoffs, obviously, they had the best year. So those are teams you should really look to break down and analyze more than just, any other team. You want to look for teams that are in the playoffs. Now, there's some one-hit wonders, so you got to be careful, right? But overall, the teams that make the playoffs are almost always the top teams. There might be a team that just had a couple injuries come up and they didn't get into the playoffs, or they bounced out early in the 1-game playoff situation. But nonetheless, if you watch the championship series and the World Series, there were quite a few doubles and home runs hit with 2 strikes. And those are the teams that won the most games. So you can say, well, they also strike out. This whole strikeouts are up. You know what's also up? ERAs. ERAs are up. ERAs have gone up almost every single year in Major League Baseball for like 14 straight years. So I hear this narrative that strikeouts are up and the pitchers are getting better. And I'm like, wait, the results are surely not showing that. They're giving the runs against the pitchers. Pitchers are giving up more runs every single year for like 14 straight years. Maybe this last year there was a little bit of a dip, but they're giving up. The ERAs are going up. So pitchers, yes, are striking out more hitters, but hitters are doing a lot more damage on the pitches that are mistakes, which are typically happening at least one in at bat. Very rarely does a pitcher have 3 to 5 pitches, finish the at bat, and not make a mistake. Their control is pinpoint. And the youth level, this definitely doesn't happen. Youth pitchers are not throwing 3 strikes pinpoint over and over again. They might get it once a game, if that. They're throwing strikes, but those strikes can also be meatballs. Remember, a meatball, a hitter's pitch, is also in the strike zone almost always. So, wanted to talk about that. I saw it being made a big deal. Like, look at this hitter's approach, 22 pitches he faced. He saw 22 pitches. So remember, in plan 2, the 2-strike approach, plan 2, hitters are looking to do damage on a meatball, but they're also looking to battle those pitches on the fringe. With less than 2 strikes, you're not looking to battle fringe pitches. You're not looking to battle those pitchers' pitches. You're going to just take those. There's no reason to just battle those. It's a low percentage of success, high risk, low reward. But with 2 strikes, you are going to battle the fringes of the strike zone. You have to battle the fringes. You're going to have to fight some pitches off. You're going to have to foul some pitches off, but your default mindset should not be defensive. It should not be a defensive default mindset with 2 strikes. We should be telling our hitters that the pitcher will make mistakes and we got to be ready to drive those. So I thought that was interesting that I was at the game that had the longest at-bat record, the most pitches of an at-bat. The at-bat took 12 minutes and 45 seconds. So this game I was just talking about with Brandon Belt versus the Angels, his 21 pitch at bat was in 2018. But I'm going to talk about a game back in 1990 that I was at that was another major league record. I think it tied with another game from like 1952. But nonetheless, I'll talk about that and what we can learn from that as coaches in the coming weeks, either next episode or the following episode. Depends how it slots in. Okay, part 2. This is going to be a quick hitter. It's like a first pitch, leadoff home run, quick boom. Before you know it, the game's already 1-0. Here we go. The 80-20 principle. I thought about the 80-20 principle. The podcast is the 80-20 baseball masterclass, 80-20 baseball. There's a specific reason I picked this. It was a couple years into making the name. Interestingly enough, once I studied the 80-20 principle, I would hear super successful people that are changing the world in a lot of good ways with their businesses or with their nonprofits or with their strategies in other areas in education. They were bringing up this 80-20 principle. So it's once you know about something, once you've heard of it, it stands out more and you're like, wait, you keep hearing it. I kept hearing it. Well, I thought about a definition to kind of explain it in a short sentence for all of us. And here it is. The 80-20 principle. It's a numerical way, a quantitative way to express prioritization. It's a numerical, quantitative way to express prioritization. Prioritization in a quantitative way. And I thought that's really what it boils down to. All right, I said I was going to be quick with part 2, and there you go. It was a quick hitter. Now, part 3, process driven plus results oriented. So I know we hear a lot of the phrase process oriented, not results oriented, or process driven, not results driven. And I think this is a good example of last week's episode when we discussed avoiding the extremes. If all you are is about process, you're going to take your eye off and you're going to get distracted from the goal that you're trying to get to. It'd be like if you're on a sailboat. I've never sailed. I've been on like a catamaran sailboat, but I've never actually sailed. I don't know anything about sailing except it just looks fun. But if you're on a sailboat and you're sailing and you're so worried about all the stuff that you're trying to do on the sailboat to get the mast or however, all the rope I see and it looks like there's definitely a lot of strategy involved. If all you are is worried about that and you never look at your compass and you never check the North Star, you never look at your GPS, well, you better hope that you're on like this retirement plan and it doesn't matter where you end up and maybe you got some 50 caliber cannons to protect yourself when you end up off the shore of Somalia. My point being, if you get so caught up in the process that you lose sight of where you're trying to get to, that's not a good place to be. At the end of the day, it's all about results insofar as you're not hurting anybody, you're not breaking the rules, you're doing it within the rules, you're not hurting anybody. At the end of the day, you're trying to get results. So here's what we can learn as baseball coaches and as just people in general. So as baseball coaches, we must use the results that we want to get in the game, the specific results that we want to get in the game, that we want our players to do well in the game, and we must use those results that we want to achieve, that we want our players to achieve in the game. We need to use those specific results to orient our process so that it gets them to that point and there's no misalignment between the process and the results of the goal and the direction in which we're trying to go. So it's about being, in my opinion, process driven, results oriented. Another example, when you're driving, you want to have good driving skills. You want to be a safe driver, but you also have a destination. So you have what you do with the brake pedal, the gas pedal, the gears, the steering wheel, the signals. You're using your mirrors. You have a process, how you change lanes, how you stop at stop signs. There's definitely a safe process and you need to stay within that so you are going to successfully and efficiently get to your result. But if you don't know the directions to where you're going, if you don't have a Thomas guide, a GPS to help you get there, or if you don't already know how to get there because somebody gave you the directions, well, you could be the world's greatest driver, but you're never going to end up where you need to get to. So it's a combination of the process of driving and also knowing where you want to get to. We want to stay process-driven, results-oriented. We definitely want to drive everything. We want to be focused on the process. And I would say 90% of what we do needs to be focusing on getting our process, our drills, our team environment, our team culture, the efficiency of everything, how we structure things, the intensity, the competitions. We want to build, is the process mimicking the game? Is it safe? We want to build the best process we can. And we really want to to optimize the process, but never lose sight of the goal. Or in baseball, really, there are goals that we are aiming for. We want our hitters to be optimized hitters. We want our pitchers to be optimized. We want our catchers behind the plate to be optimized, our base running to be optimized, and our defense to be optimized. We want that as our goal. Those are the results that we want to achieve. Then we reverse engineer it. So what happens is a lot of coaches don't reverse engineer it. They start at the beginning, and you want to start with the end in mind. And I think that's one of the habits from 7 Habits of Highly Successful People with Stephen Covey. I've recommended that book on this podcast before. Start with the end in mind. You want to reverse engineer it. Most of you know that word. You've heard that word a lot. Reverse engineer it. You want to reverse engineer that. You even want to reverse engineer other things too, and we'll get into that in other episodes. You want to reverse engineer what from the result. So what is the result? The specific result? Well, we want hitters that can do damage on pitches that are meatballs and that are hitters' pitches, and we want them to be able to also battle and protect a little bit when those pitches are on the fringes with 2 strikes. So we want our hitters to have disciplined approaches, but also aggressive when those pitches deserve to be drilled. But also, we're not chasing crazy. So that's your end result. Okay, so, well, then why are you doing a batting practice where you're letting your hitters just chase and swing at everything without telling them, well, you're swinging at that. That's why are you doing a batting practice without actually telling the hitters what the count is? Every single batting practice, every single time a hitter sees a pitch, whether it's underhand, overhand, off a pitching machine, every single time they should know, is there 2 strikes or less than 2 strikes? A 50-50 ratio is pretty good with this. You could go 60-40. What you want to do is just practice both of them, but the hitter should always know. So at the end of the day, you can say, well, man, we want our hitters to be like this. Well, are you reverse engineering it so the process gets to the results? So here's what happens when you get process focused. You lose sight of the results sometimes, the results that you want to achieve. You see where I'm coming at with this? So it's not all process, and it's definitely not all results. It's about being process driven and results oriented. So there needs to be strict alignment between your process and the results you want to get. And this is what has elevated my coaching game to, I believe, the mindset to a different level. Once I got this understood, once I figured this out, now you start separating yourself from so many other coaches. Here's why. Because everything you do in practice, everything you design, every drill, every routine, everything you do, every movement, everything you do, it may not be perfect, and it's definitely evolving, and you're getting better as you move, and you're optimizing it as you go forward. Of course, it's not going to be perfect day 1, day 2, day 100, but you're working on it. But as long as you have the paradigm that what you're doing is a big needle mover, or at least a decent sized needle mover that's tied directly to the results you want to achieve in the game. But you need to clearly define what those results are you want and then reverse engineer it. So results oriented, but process driven. We should not be going along too much through practice without saying, all right, how does this make us better in the game? Okay, does this get us better in the game, or is there something we can do to make us better with this in this drill? Can this drill be made better? Can it be designed better to make us better in the game for these specific actions? Ground balls, fly balls, throwing quality pitches, quality at bats, running the bases aggressively, but also not reckless. So I think this is a huge thing that just is the biggest game changer in life. Results need not be pushed aside and buried, and results oriented. So I firmly believe us 80-20 coaches, if we go by the process-driven, results-oriented mindset, we're going to have good success, because yes, we're focused on improving the process, getting the process better, but it's always got to be lined up with the result we want. We always have to look up to see where we're going. Okay, look up, there's the result. Is this going to get us to our result as efficiently as possible? And is it going to get us straight to the result, or is it something that might lead us to missing the target a little bit? Are we optimizing our process so we land right at the result we want? Obviously it's not going to be perfect, but I think this is something I've been wanting to cover. We've talked about it a little bit, but we want to be process driven and results oriented. The other day I was out for a walk on my lunch. I went for a walk through the hills here, and it just hit me. I was thinking about this. I had read something somewhere, an article about we're all about the process. We're all about the process. We're all about the process. And I'm like, if you're all about the process, you have no idea where you're going. If all you are is focused on the process, then you have no direction, because the results are your GPS. The results are your North Star. The results are, for you old coaches like me, the Thomas Guide. The results are the target. You could be the best dart thrower, but if you're blindfolded and you walk into a room, a bar, with the blindfold on, you could be the most accurate dart thrower in the world. But if you have no idea where the dartboard is, good luck, because you're probably going to get beat up by some biker dudes when that errant dart throw of yours ends up hitting the Cupid tattoo on the small of their back. So, process-driven, results-oriented. That is the equation. Process-driven plus results-oriented. That's the equation we want to attack life with. All right, you guys, that concludes this week's episode. Thank you, those of you that are supporting the podcast. If you're not already, just go in there. You can support the podcast really quickly. Another thing besides getting emails and messages from you coaches that are listening and sharing your success stories with me, it's also phenomenal and awesome to see the numbers continue to grow every single month with this podcast. So that fires me up. It motivates me. Share with me your success stories. Email me, coachbo@8020baseball.com, coachbo@8020baseball.com. And if you email me and you want a copy of my Drill Mastery Guide PDF, it's about a 10-page PDF that took me 3 weeks, full-time, 3 weeks. I sat down for 3 weeks and I put it together. It's available. Email me. I'll send you a free copy of it. And to say it mildly, it's something I'm very, 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 very pleased with how it turned out. Not that if you read it, you're going to be like, oh, this is the next Ernest Hemingway. No, but what you're going to get out of it, the information from it and the paradigm you're going to have when it comes to designing drills anytime, anywhere, I think it's second to none in terms of how it breaks down the ingredients and what is necessary when designing a perfect or optimal drill. So email me, coachbo@8020baseball.com, and Bo as in, like I've said before, that's the American football version, American baseball version, like Bo Jackson. So email me, coachbo@8020baseball.com, and ask me for the copy of that Drill Mastery Guide, or share with me some success stories you're having. Next week, we are going to discuss an excellent way to handle your players in terms of celebrations, something that Dave Martinez allows and his parameters on this, his rules on this. And Dave Martinez, the Washington Nationals manager, won the World Series in 2019. Interestingly enough, Dave Martinez is the guy who talked me into, and not the Dave Martinez of the Nationals, Dave Martinez, a coach that I worked with. He still coaches to this day out in the San Pedro area, the LA area. Coach Dave Martinez is the one who talked me into coaching. I think it was back in 2002. And I went out and coached with him my first year of coaching, going on 18 years ago at Mary Star of the Sea High School. And by the way, if you Google Mary Star of the Sea High School in San Pedro, Fromhold Field, it may be one of the best high school field locations in the world. It is on the bluff, on the cliffs of the Pacific Ocean, right there, just south of like Palos Verdes, just south of some really nice area, some of the nicest area in all of LA County. And man, oh man, that was I would go out there on Saturday mornings and I would show up and it was overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and I was coaching and I was hooked from day one, and that was Dave Martinez. But the other Dave Martinez of the Nationals, a little bit better well known, Dave Martinez of the Washington Nationals, has an excellent strategy that we can learn from. We'll get into that next week. And until next week's episode, take care of yourself, take care of your health, take care of your family. And take this information, like I say, take this information, take it out there, apply it, put it in. It's not going to be perfect. Take all this information and go out there and do your part in making the baseball community better, make your team better. I promise you, you're going to have more fun. Your players are going to have more fun, and you're going to win more games along the way. In the meantime, take care.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. Take it to the field.